I have a friend who is a painter, and I told him that Eisenstein in English is Ironstone.
Oh,
Well, Rex, Roy means king, and
oh.
Rex is king in Latin.
Ah, very good.
So I always tell people my medieval or Game of Thrones name would be King of Ironstone. But I said to him, my last name means Ironstone, and he knew me as a filmmaker.
Okay.
And he brought over this stone on which he drew an eye with a yin yang in the middle, and I said, that's my logo.
Oh my goodness, isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. It's been that way ever since.
And when was this? That's gorgeous.
Oh God, that had to be in the early 90s.
Oh, what a delightful story. I love knowing that. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
So so it had I Zen on a stone. I said, perfect.
Wow, that is perfect. Wow, that's what we call beautiful, beautiful kismet. All right, are you ready for your next question? What was the first instrument that you played? Or you don't play music?
I don't play instrument, and I was robbed of that when I was very young. Too young to even remember when. But you're gonna hate this story. My parents called us into the kitchen, and my mother said,
"Oh no!
Would you like to learn to play an instrument?" My father was just standing there, and I went, "Okay." You know, as a kid, I didn't. And she said, and we lived in an apartment building. And she said, "What instruments?" And the first two that came to mind, I went, "I don't know, trumpet, drums." She went, "Too loud." If she'd have said, "How about a guitar?" I would have said, "Fine." I would.
Right.
Too loud.
So
that was it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I have a really good musical sense.
Yes, you do. I want to get to that too.
Okay.
But continue.
So when I work with my partners, I work with a lot of different people, and they're composing, and if I'm in I make lots of suggestions, and they're good musicians, and they go, "Oh, that's a good idea." And sometimes if I'm in the room when it's being mastered, and I make a suggestion, they go, "You're a producer." So I went, "Yeah, I could," but my producing is always artistic.
Correct.
I'm not a technical producer. Even when I worked in television, I said, "Look, I can't tell you what electronics or what lenses to use, but I could describe it from an aesthetic point of view, you know, or I could work on the script, but I don't know the technical." I always have guys who are pros or women who are pros, and they know.
So yeah.
I was married. My wife's name was Liz,
Oh.
and I'm Roy. And she worked in the corporate world, and I was always doing artistic things like making short films or writing songs. And we used to joke and say, "Left brain Liz, right brain Roy."
Oh. King, the Roy, the King of Ironstone. I love that. Thank you. That's beautiful. So what was the first song that you wrote? Do you remember?
Yes, the first song I wrote was in Brooklyn. I think I was around 12. And this guy, Alan Mizell, we formed a little singing group. In those days, the older kids were all doing what did they call it? They were doing 50s a cappella.
Ooh, I like that.
So it was doo-wop. They were doing doo-wop, and doo-wop was common on the radio as well. But there was this new stuff coming in slowly, and so we used to stand inside a Tom McCann's shoe store at night.
Oh.
So there's two display windows like this, right? And then there's the glass door to the shop, but it's closed. And if we stood in there and sang, we got acoustics.
Oh, beautiful.
So this guy, Alan Mizell, and I wrote a song called The Soap of Love.
Ooh.
And the basic premise was that Cupid made the soap of love.
Oh.
And now I'm washing every day.
You didn't like it at that age.
And we were so head in the clouds that this older guy, Jolly, who lived in the building across the way, said, our group would like to buy your song for $10.
Oh, you're kidding.
And we said no, because it's going to be a hit. That was it. I didn't do anything again for years.
Oh, that's such a sweet song. How old were you guys again?
I think we were around 12 or so.
Oh, isn't that sweet? That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
We might have been even as young as 10.
Ooh. Pipsqueaks with hearts. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Are you ready for your next question? All right. What was the first concert you went to?
Oh, that's an easy one. There was a disc jockey in New York called Murray the K. And he had a show called Murray the K and the Swingin' Soiree. And I was pretty young. My brother's 3 years older. And we would get on the train to go to downtown Brooklyn. It was still dark out. And you'd go to the Brooklyn Fox, which was the movie theaters in Brooklyn were palaces.
Yes.
I mean, they were beautiful palaces. And the Brooklyn Fox was big. And when you get there, you'd get online. Well, New Yorkers stand online, not in line. And you get online, and it would wrap around the block. And they had these police wooden, almost like a sawhorse. You know, it's like
yes.
two triangles
yes.
and a board that says, yeah. And you'd get there online, and it was every possible ethnic group.
Oh, sweet.
Because the shows would be also mixed. So you'd have Jan and Dean, who preceded the Beach Boys, doing surf and driving in California songs, and you'd have Benny King,
right?
You know, and you'd have Little Richard, and there'd be the Shirelles, and the Capris. There's a moon out tonight, and this high falsetto, and so it was a really a melange of different rock and roll styles. And like I said to you earlier, so we didn't see a difference. You know, maybe in the South or even in the Midwest, they saw black music and white music. We always had it all.
Right.
Little Anthony and the Imperials, and these shows, you'd get there early in the morning, they finally let you in, you'd see 2 feature-length films, and then 20 cartoons, all before the show starts.
Wow.
So to kids, this was like we died and went to heaven.
Yes, 2 movies, a bunch of shorts, and a band. A bunch of bands.
Right.
That's fabulous.
But then they also had, at the Brooklyn Paramount, the other competing rock station, WMCA, they would have shows. We always liked the Fox better because it was Murray the K, and he was just more famous. Now, the WMCA good guys put on the one at the Brooklyn Paramount, but also an amazing theater. And they would get different groups, obviously.
Right.
So we got to see them all. I have no idea what it cost because my brother was older and he handled the money.
Right. Good. Good for you.
Oh, we saw Stevie Wonder when he was little Stevie Wonder. He was let out on stage. He must have been our age or a little bit younger. And he did Topsy Part 2. And he played the harmonica and sang, and the house came apart.
Wow.
He just blew the house away.
Wow. How fabulous. Yeah. Ooh, cool. Cool.
So those were my first concerts.
Cool. Thank you for sharing those. And do you remember the first album that you purchased?
Oh, gee. It might have been for a long stacked like this.
Yeah.
The camera's looking down and they're looking up.
Quintessential. That is the quintessential rock and roll picture, isn't it? Album.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The diagonal looking. That's awesome. What colors was?
You know, there's like one guy here and then just.
Yeah.
you could see it if you go to YouTube and type in Rolling Stones, High Tide, and Green Grass. I'm sure they'll show you the album cover.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Okay. Are you ready for your next question?
I'm always ready.
What are 3 things that you love?
Well, I love, I'd say my drug of choice is any form of writing. Because I write books, I write poetry, I write songs, I write short films, I write screenplays. So when I'm in that zone, and I could tell at this point in my life, I could tell when I go, that's a good line. I love that. So I love filmmaking and I love songwriting. So, but I see them all as one thing. I just jump around because when I'm writing books, and I'm writing one now, I tend to take a break from that long form and write songs because that's a short form.
I understand that. What book are you writing now?
Well, I have a book on Amazon called Blacktop, No Map, and it's a novella about a Vietnam vet with PTSD. But the one I'm writing now, I have another whole. You see, I'm a little lazy when it comes to the heavy lifting of going in and
editing,
rearranging.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I have one book that's finished that's called "It's the Pebble in Your Shoe," which is a fiction in which I insert some of my truths.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in the novella, it's not my story, but the emotions are mine.
Correct. I understand.
So, and this one I'm writing now is more of a memoir.
Oh, good.
Because I've had so many chapters. I've been to 21 countries, and I've traveled the states, and I was in the Army, and there's like a whole. Each one is like a separate. And the fun part about writing it is I don't write it in chronological order.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So 1 minute I could be in the Army, and next I'm 12 years old in Brooklyn.
Very interesting.
And it bounces around so that each chapter would be a self-contained, freestanding story.
Correct. I understand that. Beautiful.
You know who Stanislavski was?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite quotes of his is, "Generality is the enemy of art."
Ooh, I like that.
It's a great quote. And so I said that to her, and she was so bright. She writes me back in the email. She goes, "Gee, I guess if you want to be a writer, you can't have any secrets." And to some degree, that's true, because everything you do, like looking at your background, it gives away what you have on your walls. That gives away some part of your personality. You know what I'm saying? So everything you do, especially if it's something creative, what you choose to draw, paint, write, sing about, that gives away some insight into where you're drawn, and that's who you are. So I said, yeah, that's it. You can't, when I was teaching filmmaking, I used to go, you can't really give a shit that somebody knows that you're sensitive, or, I used to teach, when I was teaching filmmaking and method acting, I used to say to these young people, I used to go, listen, believe me, I've done every macho thing you can imagine. I said, but if the commercial is really well done and it's touching, I cry like a baby. Because if my theory or my feeling is, if you're going to be an honest artist in any field, you have to own all your emotions, not just the ones that you think are sexy. And your vulnerability is what's universal. And when I was teaching in the Philippines, I would say to them, listen, don't make films in the areas that look Western, the built-up areas. I go, make it in your neighborhood. Because the more specific you are about your experience, the more our humanity will relate to experience, and therefore it becomes universal. When you try to be universal, you've diluted the whiskey. If you look at all my short films, especially the monologues, I have a what I call it's a jump cut style. So in other words, I'll shoot the same monologue in 6 or 7 locations and then edit them, because my theory when I first started doing that was, it's a monologue. How are you going to make a monologue visually interesting? And I did it by this, like when you take a deck of cards and you
can do the bridge.
Right. So you're taking, like, you might be sitting there in front of your flag and go, boy, I really hate this country. And then we'll see you out on your porch smoking a cigarette going, look, it's not my fault. They're the ones who come up with the laws. And that makes it move.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So it's a style I've done so long now. The only time I do what's called an eyeline match. An eyeline match means it's got to look like it's a continuous thing. So if I was going to shoot you straight on, and then I wanted to shoot you from your side, I'd have to pick it up so that you would turn to the camera. It looks like a 2-camera shoot. It doesn't jump locations. So in other words, like you see some amateur films, and they're holding a cup of coffee, and then they cut and it's not there, then it's there again. Or a cigarette that's this long, then it's this long.
Right.
The ash.
Continuity.
That's right. And eyeline matches means if you're looking this way and then I cut to this angle, you have to be looking that way, and then you turn.
Correct.
But in a monologue, I break that rule.
Eisen Media Productions, EYE. Good.
Right.
Make sure you go there. There's so many beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movies on there, videos with great lyrics.
Well, that falls in, when you see a slideshow like that, those are my spoken word pieces.
Okay.
I have 120 on YouTube.
Wow.
And I have over 100 short films.
Wow.
Now, I would say most of the films are on the humorous side, but I have some of them are serious. Like I have 2 films on spousal abuse that are not funny at all.
Right.
But basically, I have to entertain both sides of my mind. I always say I tend to be playful and fun-loving, but I have this part of me I call my Eastern European Jewish winter, and I need to address it. It's the shadow. It's the things that hurt, the things that we're struggling with, or I'm struggling with, or collectively, it's an existential angst. So they're both important to me. My serious and my playful. There's a very funny link.
Oh, good. Thank you. I like that. Very good. Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, you don't even have to ask. Just ask.
Okay, good. What do you know absolutely to be 100% true in this world?
That you have to have a good cup of coffee.
You have to have a good cup of coffee?
Yeah, you have that if you're in the moment. Well, one of the lines I wrote is, if you have good luck and you don't have it and you don't know it, you don't have it. So if you're having a good cup of coffee and you're with somebody, you're in an interesting conversation with somebody you like, you have to be present, but you also have to be aware that this is a perfect moment.
Correct.
So you have to be aware. In one of my pieces, an old piece I did with this guy Tommy Otis, he's basically saying, "What's your problem?" It's a monologue. He goes, "What are you complaining about? Did you wake up in Somalia or Bangladesh? Have you spent your life in a hospital or a prison?" Because we lose track if you're not present. Going, God, I was reading this book about the siege of Stalingrad. I love reading history. And these people are running around. They find a rotten potato. They carve out the rotten parts. They cook it. enjoy it. And so for the entire time I'm reading that book, every morning I'm having a bagel or something with coffee in my house. I go, how lucky I am. I can eat whenever I want. I have a roof over my head. I'm in Southern California. Can I swear?
Yes, if you wish to.
Another line that I wrote is, if you wake up in Southern California, shut the fuck up. You're already way ahead of the game.
You know, I love your candor in the simplicity of your thought, which is, you know, you got to have a good cup of coffee, which translates into be present in the moment.
You're like this then. When I got out of the Army, I realized, I mean, I was just 21. I wasn't an adult in the sense.
Yeah.
I made sergeant just before I turned 20. So you can imagine how young I was. But when I got out of the Army, I realized life is not only short, fragile, and you could lose somebody like that. So I made a determination that people who mean something to me in my life are going to hear about it before the eulogy. And people who I don't like, who I think are nasty or whatever, I'm just going to ice them out and move on.
I thought you were going to
from anybody,
right?
But I don't seek it out either. But it's like I sit there in the morning and there's my friend Roger. He's from England. He's a car guy. He buys and sells cars. Whenever we say goodbye to each other, I say I love you, Roger. He goes, I love you too.
Oh, that's sweet.
I have a lot of friends who, male friends who we end emails that way. We end FaceTime that way.
That's sweet.
We just, yeah. It's like, and some of these guys grew up pretty macho too, but they've realized that it's a cutoff. It's like, what am I saving it for?
Right.
The Marines, if I say I love you, he goes, back at you. He can't say it, but he does his best. He goes, you too. And I have to accept that not everybody's as outspoken. I had a girlfriend from Japan, and I said, Kyoko, you're so beautiful. And she'd get so uncomfortable. And then one day she goes, in Japan, men don't say that. I said, Kyoko, you do know I'm not Japanese, right? and she was very sweet. And then she got to like it. At first she was uncomfortable. But then she got to like it.
That's beautiful. I love how you did that. I love that. That's really sweet. I like how you touched on something, which is my next two questions, which are what is the highest high lyric or prose or lines that you've written, and what is the lowest low lyric? So you kind of mentioned a few. Yeah.
I wrote a song with Frank Cepalu to my lyrics called A Moon Made of Glass, which I think is among my better poetry. But I also like The High and the Mighty because it's basically an anti-war song. And the singer who I wrote it with also created the video, which just knocked me out.
Oh.
He just did
Which one was that?
The High and the Mighty, the one you used on the.
What were the two lyrics again?
One is A Moon Made of Glass.
Ooh, beautiful.
Yeah,
I like that.
And the other one is The High and the Mighty.
Ooh. Okay. And so, thank you. I like that.
I have I don't know why. People who know me personally are always surprised at some of my writing because I've always been drawn to sad songs. I like songs about somebody who's going through an existential angst and trying to find themselves. You know, that goes back to the hippie days. You know, when songs were coming at you from 20 directions with the great singer-songwriters like Joni Mitchell. I love Tom Waits and Leonard Cohen, John Prine, Chris Christopherson. I listen to lyrics and I go, when I'm reading a book or I'm listening to a song and you make me go, ah, shit, I wish I wrote that. I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven.
That's cool, yeah.
It's like this quote I heard from a Spanish poet which says, love is like licking honey off a thorn. And you go, oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Woo, careful.
Oh, here's a line that came to me. I was up north in San Francisco writing with my friend Frank Cefalu, and he's fooling around with the computer. All of a sudden I went, and I ran to my laptop. I opened it up. I'm writing. He goes, what? I said, boy, I just had a line come through, which is a chorus for a country song. He says, what is it? I said, a broken window never lies about the weather. And it just came. It came. Those
crystal
gifts,
clear.
They just. Where'd that come from?
Wow.
You know. So when you're talking about, if I'm writing a song about a cheating spouse or something, lover, and they're lying to you, I like when the chorus doesn't touch on it exactly. So if you go to the chorus and say, well, a broken window never lies about the weather, you're really talking about you can't lie to me. But you don't have to say that. So when those lines come, you go, oh, thank you.
That is a marvelous line. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Excellent. So we just touched on your inspirations. That was my next question. So you just, are there any other inspirations that you would like to share?
Well, if you go back, there are people, definitely the Beatles and the Stones. Also, I can't leave out Bob Dylan. Because Bob Dylan really broke the rules. He was the first guy that came out that was making. Well, he wasn't the first guy. He was the first guy in popular music. Before him, the folk singers like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, they were singing protest songs. But Dylan brought it into the mainstream, and he was writing songs about not just protest, but human relationship songs that weren't boy-girl. You know, you've got a lot of nerve to say you are my friend. You know, you listen to the lyrics and you go, oh, for just 1 hour, you could be me and I could be you. You'd see what a drag it is to see you.
Oh!
You go, my God.
That's a good friend. I mean, if you can find a way to tell them that and not get, not a friend anymore.
He's saying you're not a friend.
Yes.
You just want to. He says you just want to be in the crowd that's in, basically.
Oh.
But he.
It sounds.
There are others. There are so many others. I mean, Robbie Robinson, the band. I'll think of 20. Laura Nero.
Ooh.
Laura Nero wrote a string of hit songs that were done, lots of them by the Fifth Dimension and other people, and you go, oh my God, she really was unfortunately she died of, I think, cancer, very young, but she was a prolific songwriter with not only catchy melodies, but good lyrics.
And that was Lauren...
Laura Nero.
N-I-R-O. I'm going to have to look her up.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Plus, we had Motown and Stax, which were dance music.
You're right.
And then you had the psychedelic, or the, which was like a trippy, like
also dance music,
movie.
Yeah.
And then you had the singer-songwriters that were listening music.
Right.
You'd sit and listen to Joni Mitchell's song Conversation, and you go, every line fits perfectly.
Wow.
Or her song, which song is it? She starts out, she goes, you said, just before our love went cold or died, you said, I'm as steady as the northern star. And I said, uh, yeah, no, you're as constant as a northern star. And she says, yeah,
Right.
constantly alone and in the dark. I'll be in the bar if you want me. And
Day or night.
every line.
Night and day.
She's brilliant. She goes,
Yeah. She was also...
one line, she goes, I'm afraid of the devil, but I'm attracted to those who aren't afraid.
Wow.
Right? Her songmanship is so untouchable that sometimes if I listen to someone like her or Leonard Cohen, I go, God, I feel inadequate. But then I get inspired.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of those inspirations.
John Prine?
Yes, of course. Rest in peace, all of the...
Right. Angel from Montgomery is such a perfect song.
Yes.
He has that one line, how does someone go to work in the morning, come home in the evening, and have nothing to say?
Right.
Now, if that is in the movie...
Right. With Johnny Cash. I mean, that...
Yeah, that's another one.
Have you... Right. Beautiful. Well, on that note, what have you learned about people?
I'm going to have to swear again. Because it's one of my lines. If you go through life yelling, fuck you,
Ooh.
Do not expect the echo to be any sweeter.
Ooh.
You have to...
Beautiful.
You can only get what you put out.
Right.
If you... what I've learned is, I remember I met this girl who became my girlfriend for a while in Europe after the Army. And she lived in Chicago. And I drove to Chicago, and I got to South Chicago, which is known for it being crime-ridden and mostly black. And these guys said, how'd you find it here? I said, I stopped at a gas station in South Chicago, and I asked these guys, how do I get to? And they said, whoa, are you crazy? I said, why? They said, that's really rough. I said, if you give somebody a chance to be an expert, they feel pretty good. So by turning myself over to someone else and saying, say, can you tell me how I get to? They get a chance to be somebody who knows something.
They get a chance.
I'll help you.
Right. I understand.
So what I learned about people is you can't kick a dog and then expect it to love you.
Right.
So you have, people generally, one by one, are pretty decent. It's in groups where they get a little stupid. But even then, I tell you, I love. I had an epiphany a few months ago in my writing that sometimes a stranger comes by and I have an exchange with them, and my first thought is, I think I love these people in this little moment.
Right.
And then I went to another level. And I said, I think I love me in that moment. Because I'm able to love something in someone.
Very good. That's very true. Yes, I understand that.
So what I learned about people is, first of all, you got to. When I was teaching, especially method acting, is very visceral. We don't want you to act sad. We want you to be sad. We don't want you to act angry.
Correct.
We want you to.
Uta Hagen.
And you mine your experiences,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I would say, you have to. You have to expect what you're putting out to be the universe you're living in. And if you walk around distrust, I have friends who I love, but they are not like me. They don't talk to strangers. They don't pet their dogs.
You are the dog. You are the dog watcher at the coffee house. You're the dog babysitter.
I had a girlfriend who used to say, "Do you have to stop and pet every dog you pass on the street?" And I went, yeah,
kinda.
Cats, horses, whatever will let me touch.
Yeah.
So you're in the universe you create, and you can't control what happens to you. That's the universe, and you're bumping into it. But you have something to say about how you react to it.
Correct.
So if a car jumps the curb and breaks your leg, that's out of your control. What you do with that, how you respond, that's up to you. That doesn't mean it's easy. But you know what? Taking the negative route is not easy.
Right.
So.
Very true. I love how you're so... Are you ready? What are 3 pieces of life advice that you have for your audience?
I always say, if you want to give yourself a gift for the rest of your life, stay curious.
I like that.
As long as you're curious, there are a million books you haven't read, a million movies you haven't seen. The internet is a plethora of things you don't know. I look up words all the time. I go, oh, I like that word. What is that?
I love.
But also, or especially if it's a topic like, is there life in other planets? You'll get a TED Talk or one of the interviews, or there's more than just TED, and an expert is standing there sharing
their brain,
a lifetime studying.
Yes, I follow you.
How can you be? I am never bored. Here's another one I love, which is, if you want to do something, you make time. If you don't, you make excuses.
Want to do something, you make time. Yes.
When I was teaching filmmaking, I said to them, the original Nike commercial, it was a picture of a New York City tenement buildings as seen from a basketball court. And then there was a crawl. Crawl is when the writing comes up on the screen like that.
Oh, okay.
And it said basketball, handball, baseball, football, tennis, and it named every possible activity, and at the end it said, just do it. And I go, if you're a filmmaker, just
do it. Beautiful.
Make you can't learn without making mistakes. And when I was teaching, I also said, you should look at your work or even other people's work and have a critical eye. But instead of attacking it, think of it as a puzzle and go, what would have made this work? And when you're talking to yourself after you have a failure, I said, talk to yourself as if you're trying to encourage a child. Not going, oh, you're worthless, that's stupid, you have no talent. That doesn't help you.
Correct.
But if you go, okay, what did I do wrong there? How can I make it work? Because everything is real. Every work of art is a construction of some sort.
Correct.
So what parts are missing? What should I have left out? Because what you leave out is important too. And I used to teach in the filmmaking class, I said, if you look at Japanese traditional art, there's water, 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 and then there's the wave in the corner, right? At the early Japanese painting. So along the bottom you see water, and you get to the edge and there's a wave like that.
Oh, yes.
There's nothing here. There's nothing here. Nothing. Not a house, nothing. I go, what that does, that empty space makes you go, whoop, whoop, whoop. And I said the empty spaces are as important. And I was helping a friend do her first film. She asked me for a shot list to help her. And so I'm over there, and then but we're going through the script to figure out shot list. And then I said to her, don't finish that sentence. She goes, what do you mean? I said, we know what you're saying. You know, if I said to you, are you going to go have, you know I'm talking about coffee. Right? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to be at the, you go, yeah, sure. And then I was again.
Okay, I understand.
I go,
so leave that space.
Let it, because we know, we listen like that.
Because there's actually, I was saying, oh, in the Bible they say, stay still. So in that moment of emptiness.
You can't catch something in your hands if your hands are full.
Right.
But, the common mistake by new filmmakers is they'll have somebody on the phone and they go, yeah, I'll meet you at the Cow's End. Okay, I'll be there at 2 o'clock. And you go, who has a phone call? It's like this. Yeah, what's that? No, I could be at the No, 2 o'clock's fine. the audience hears the other side because they've been on the phone
right
in their lives.
You're correct.
So you don't have to paint that out. In filmmaking or in writing in general, it's called exposition, expository writing. In my book, Blacktop No Map on Amazon, the only thing you hear is what's going on in the whole book is in the guy's mind. And I didn't want, as the author, to tell you he's sensitive or he's this or that. I wanted you to look and see the way he sees rain on a highway, for you to go, oh, this guy really, he sees the atoms in life. By how he saw things, how he processed them, how he felt, that gives you the character definition. I don't have to say, he was feeling sad.
I like
Right.
that. I like that.
My buddy and I had for over a year in 93, 94, we had a sketch comedy show at the Tamarind Theater on Franklin, across from the Celebrity Center. You know where that is?
No, I don't. I know where Franklin is, though.
It's deep in Hollywood, let's say.
Okay.
And we wrote this one monologue that he did. He and I wrote it where the guy never finishes a single sentence.
Ooh.
So it went something like this. He goes, I met this woman, she, and the two of us, anyway, her face, she looked like Linda Ron. Anyway, we met and we were and he never finishes a sentence.
Brilliant.
Nobody got lost.
Brilliant.
One of the things I get from other writers all the time, they go, God, your dialogue it's great. And I go, oh, thanks. They go, that's the hardest part for me. And I go, that's the easiest part for me. Structure is the hardest part for me because I don't flow in this. I was never good at math because it's too dogmatic. 2 + 2 is 4. There's no gray about it. Language isn't that way. Language is fluid.
Yes.
Well, the Italians say, Italiano l'una lingua che canta. Italian, the one language that sings.
Yes, this is true. It's very lyrical. Very true.
But I think Spanish, Portuguese, and French sings also.
Yes, they all do in their own.
Yeah.
We all, right? Yes. But.
Tutte romantica.
Okay, are you ready for your last 2 questions? Dun, 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 dun.
Sure.
First of all, I would like to know if you have any shout outs that you'd like to say, any shout outs to people, animals, people, anything.
This is a shout out, it's more general to all the veterans out there. Go down to the VA here in Los Angeles. They are fantastic. I don't know a veteran who does not love the treatment they're getting there.
Good.
I've had private medical in my life. I've been here.
Good.
I am never rushed. I can sit and talk to a nurse, a technician, or a doctor for a given thing, and they will sit there and talk to me as long as I talk, and then when they're finished, they go, is there anything else? They're not running out. When I was teaching method here in the city, method acting, I was working with veterans because the process of method acting, because you're dealing with your history instead of always pushing away the bad moments, I go, the day your mother died will always hurt. But because you're dealing with it, it stops haunting you. And the day you had a traumatic experience is always going to be there, so you can't ignore it. And so the work is so personal. And if you put it into, let's say, I'm going to do a monologue and this character is feeling this. And I go to my own life where I felt that, and there are preparation exercises, too many to list here, that will get you to be in that spot. And if you could, and you're telling the story and you're crying real tears, and when you're finished, it's cathartic. So I say go to this VA. Their psych department is great, and all the medical is great. That I highly recommend it.
Good, beautiful. Shout out to all the vets out there, past, present, future, and in everywhere, all across.
I
Beautiful.
did have one more story I thought I should tell you.
Yes, please.
When I was
Mm-hmm.
18, I was sent to Southeast Asia, and we were at what they call a signal site from First Signal Brigade. And we were about 300 guys, maybe less, out in the rice paddies, not near anybody. And there were about 6 American GIs that I was the only Jew, and they didn't like it. And I come from a basically secular Jewish home. We didn't go to temple unless it was someone's wedding or bar mitzvah. And we didn't talk about God or heaven or hell at home ever. It was more about, we were what you called Reform Jews. And in Reform Judaism, it's really all about mitzvahs, which are good deeds. It's about your behavior, how you interact with people. And here I am out in the middle of nowhere. I'm 18 years old, first time other than my basic training and schooling in the army, away from home. And I'm the representative of all Judaism. And I don't know anything. I just know what I know. And then this one guy, John Kelly, bigger guy than me, started a fight with me.
Oh, no.
I I beat the living shit out of him.
Oh.
I never beat a guy that badly. I was in fights as a kid growing up.
Yes.
The next day, he was swollen from his hairline to here, so you couldn't even see his jaw.
Oh,
And
no.
he apologized to me.
Oh.
And then all the other guys who didn't like Jews, like I made my bones. It's like being in the mob. I killed a guy. They then backed away because they said, I was skinny. This skinny kid from Brooklyn is nuts. Because he hit me and I went off.
Yes. Technically.
When I made sergeant, I was so young looking that the locals, we had houseboys and housegirls and people doing a lot of the work that normally, like shining your boots and cleaning the living quarters. They were locals. And my buddy John and I, there's one picture you see of me with the 2 girls.
Mm-hmm.
Those were house girls. They did sweeping up and cleaning. And because I picked up some of the language, my buddy John and I, all the houseboys and housegirls cried when we left. Because we talked to them, we would get care packages from home and share experiment with the foods. Some they liked, some they didn't.
Of course.
But they called me Deck Sergeant, which meant baby sergeant.
Oh.
Because I looked so young.
Oh.
And I almost had a fight with this guy from Queens named Tony Poeta. And we were slap boxing. You know how boys do that. And I was a good boxer because my father boxed in his youth. And so I grew up a really good technical boxer. And I'm beating this guy, and he punches me with a closed fist. And I swear to you, in my brain, I saw a line come up like this. On this side was like the Simpsons sky of clouds and blue.
Yeah.
And on this side was like a radar screen with tactics.
Oh, wow.
And in the blue, this thing said these are, because
Correct.
I had instinctive body memory. And on this side, the blue sky said to me, if you beat him, and you could, because I could tell I already was better, he'll never be your friend again. And so instead of hitting him, I grabbed his wrists, crossed them like that against his chest, pushed him against the wall, and we're like 2 dogs. And I go, Tony. And he's really humiliated because I was outboxing him. I said, Tony, is that what you really want to do? You want to fight me? And he went, shit. And he came down.
Beautiful.
And we became friends. And so there was this other guy, Bob Violan from Ohio, who, when his brother-in-law died, cried in my arms.
Oh.
And then there was John, who was my best friend. And one day I walk into this little chit house, they called it, which was a place where we can get drinks on our signal site, and the three of them are drunk. And I walk in and they go, and there he is now. And they're crying. And I look, it was so funny. There he is now.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how you inspire the tender moments to not be morsels, but to be moments, full moments, if that makes sense.
But it took doing,
Beautiful.
because I in a world where I thought you don't take it. I'm very good at protecting my boundaries even now. I don't let anybody abuse me. But when I was younger, I thought, well, this guy needs his ass kicked. Well, that was the world I grew up in, and I believed it. I believed, because there was the biggest fear you had as a boy in Brooklyn was to be called a punk.
Right.
Oh, he's a punk. And my father, when he was teaching me to box, he used to say, don't ever start a fight with anyone, but don't take any shit from anyone. I go, what do you mean? He goes, some people will tell you that bullies are cowards. That's not true. Some of them are tough guys that are just nasty. He says, but if they start with you, and even if he beats you up, you have to change the cost-benefit ratio. I go, what does that mean? He goes, he's not going to remember the punches he landed. He'll remember the ones you landed. So you have to make it cost something. If you're going to mess with me, it's not free. So I was never victimized. Because I never let you get off free. But I had to learn I don't have to respond to him.
No, that's God does that. That's God gets
but that's
to... Right.
But that's maturing. You learn, you go, this guy's
Well, I see a lot of good films coming ready to come out from you on some of these days. I look forward to them. Beautiful out. I will check that out. I want to tell everybody to go to your YouTube channel. Please do. You will be delighted. And I have your last question for you. Are you ready? If you could be a superhero, what would you be and why?
When I was a boy, I had 4 heroes. Tarzan, because he was good, and he talked to animals, and they listened.
Yay, Tarzan!
Zorro.
Yes.
Because he defended the weak. Robin Hood, because he defended the weak. And the Lone Ranger, for the same reason. It was the guy who stood up. It's like the movie High Noon with...
Clint Eastwood?
Oh, God. No. Way before Clint Eastwood. I'll think of it. But anyway, High Noon, the sheriff, these bad guys are coming to town with him, so he stands up alone. And even at the Cow in the morning, when there's a street person causing trouble, I'm one of the few guys who stands up and says, you got to go now. Because somebody has to.
You stand up for the meek.
Well, my father, when he was teaching me, he also, because he was, besides the PTSD, he was kind of heroic as a man. He would get involved and where most people won't, to defend a victim. He actually got awards for that as a civilian.
Oh, good.
And he said to me, as I'm learning to fight, he goes, remember, the strong defend the weak.
Tarzan? I forgot. Tarzan?
Robin Hood. Zorro. The Lone Ranger.
And the Lone Ranger.
I have one more story to tell you that most people in LA have no idea of this. My buddy Dana and I was living in San Francisco. We got a letter of appreciation and an accommodation from the police department, the commissioner, and from Mayor Feinstein. We were driving through Golden Gate Park, and it's rush hour evening. We're coming back from something, and we see something weird in the bushes. And there's a little boy, about 10 years old, who looks like he's been crying. And I look inside, and I see a man just looked like he was humping somebody. I said, what's happening? He said, this guy is weighing us. That's what he told them. And we went, hey, and he cleaned himself up and comes out, and we said, what the fuck are you doing? And he goes, oh, nothing. And he looks inside. He thought we were a police car because it was my buddy's company car that looked like a police car.
Yeah.
But he looks inside, sees none of the stuff, and he jumps on a moped, a Puch, P-U-C-H, and he takes off, and we chase after him. And we're on this chase, and we're driving on the sidewalk, but he's able, because he's on a motorbike, to go over this little culvert, and we can't follow. So we're looking around, and long story short, the next day, Dana calls me and says, well, how you doing? I said, I didn't sleep last night. He goes, me neither. Want to go look for him? I said, yeah. I'll give you the short version. We look up in the phone book, and we find a place right near Golden Gate Park called Marvelous Mopeds. We go there, and they have Puchs.
You're too smart. Yeah.
But they have a basket on the back with Marvelous Mopeds, so you can't see the word Puch.
Ah.
And we said to this woman, do you sell these? They go, no. I go, do people bring in their Puchs for repair? She goes, yeah. And there's this young black dude on the other side of this wall, this counter, and he's working on them. And I said, well, do you know somebody? And we described what he looked like. I should have been a cop. I heard a tiny clip in his speech. I said, I think he's Germanic, blonde. I go, he stands kind of stooped. And she goes, what's the name of that guy who brings in his Puch to work on? And the guy goes, his name is Charles. He goes, I think he's a groundskeeper at USF. And we said, because we told her the story that he was molesting boys. And we said, well, he was wearing overalls. So he looked like a groundskeeper. So we go, thank you. And I said to the lady, I go, listen. She says, I always thought he looked like a rapist. I said, listen, miss, we may be talking about two different people. I don't want you to jump to the conclusion it might be a different guy. So we drive up to USF, and it's like a 4-story parking structure. And we're looking in to see if we see his motorbike. So we go inside, and we walk up to the front desk, and there's a woman there with white hair. Can I help you? I go, yeah, where's the groundskeeper's shed? She goes, go up to that phone and dial 632, whatever. Groundskeeper, I go, yeah, is Charles there? And he goes, Chrisman? We go, yeah. He goes, no, he's off today. Thank you. We hang up. We go right across the lobby to the phone booth. We look up his name. We have an address. We go down to...
I love your perseverance.
So we go down, and it's this rough neighborhood in San Francisco, and it's one of those buildings with the wrought iron and the glass on the front door, and they buzz you up, but the glass is replaced with particle board, you know? So anyway, plywood. So we go, okay, what's our plan? You know, okay, he might say, who is it when we buzz him, and then we might not get to see who the guy is. He says, okay, we made a plan, and Dane is bigger than me, but he's from California. You know, I'm a little bit older, and I'm a Brooklyn boy. So we go and we say, okay, here's the deal. We go up, we see if it's him. If it is him, we say, we thought you were our friend from college. So we walk in, he buzzes us in, he doesn't say who is there, because probably didn't work. And we walk in, you could smell the old carpet, you know, the musty stairway carpet. And it's, of course, it's the top floor. And we knock on the door. And we go, yeah? I said, Charles? He goes, yeah. And my buddy goes, Chuck, is that you? Chuck? We hear click, click, click. He opens the door, and now he and I are as close as we were the day before, only I'm not sitting in the car looking at him. I'm looking at him. And he goes, yeah? And he stooped over, and I could hear the German in his... And I forgot the plan. I totally went into, I want to kill this guy.
Oh, okay. I can understand that.
We want to, and my friend Dana grabs my arm. He goes, no, we thought you were our friend from college. And he pulls me away. And this guy's looking like something's up, right? Maybe he recognized me. We go downstairs, and I'm the little guy compared to Dana. I go, Dana, go to that bar on the corner and call the police. I'll wait out front in case he tries to leave, instead of having the big guy. So
Yes.
Dana runs down the block. He goes into the bar. He's the only white man in the bar. And he goes, anybody have a quarter? I need to call the police.
Oh,
and
no.
They all look at him like, yeah, we're going to help you. And he goes, we caught this guy as a child molester. And these guys pony up all the quarters they need, you know, because it's a universal. And these two cops come, and I was so touched by these guys, you know. And the two cops come, and I'm talking to the guy in the shotgun seat. And he goes, well, you know, we don't have a victim, so we can't arrest him. And I said, can you just go up there and check him for priors? And he goes, okay, go to the police station in the park and wait there. So we go there, and we go inside, and there's this phone booth size ante room with, you know, those double plexiglass, almost like a bank. And we talk to the sergeant, and we go, or the person at the desk, and we tell him what we're there for. And this big fat sergeant goes by. He goes, a green pooch? We said, yeah, a green pook. He goes, we've been looking for this guy for 2 years. We've got like 8 counts of oral copulation and sodomy with children. But you still need a victim, right? So we go out. The guy goes, wait outside. We go outside, and we see the police car coming, and we could see in the back seat he's sitting like this, and the driver goes like this to us, and we duck behind a van. He doesn't want the guy to see it. And we're standing outside. We're waiting. We're pulling our hair up, and the arresting officer comes outside. He goes, you're not going to believe this. We said, what? He goes, just as we're bringing him in, one of the kids and his father are placing a victim complaint, and the kid goes, that's him.
One down, more to go. Don't stop.
But I said to Dana, I said, you realize there are cops with open cold cases for years, and we got it off our chest in 24 hours.
Thank you so much. I'm sure you've saved a lot of children from that man. There's a lot.
Going up to Napa for years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
But none of my friends here know anything about that.
Thank you so much, Roy. It's been a treat. It's been a treasure. I really look forward to more of your videos and your songs and your screenplays and your monologues and your books. I'm going to look on Amazon and get reading. I've got a lot of things to learn. I must stay wise.
Remember, generality is the enemy of art.
Generality is the enemy of art. It's so hard to say goodbye, so we shall see you later.
I'll see you at coffee.
Yes. Thank you so much, Roy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
And everything from yesterday comes back as ghosts way too soon. I keep crashing in roadside motels, writing postcards I don't mail. I write I love you on everyone, every night I never fail. Lately I'm a memory, just some pebbles in my head. Seems all that's left of everything I had just for sale. Sometimes when the moon is full, I pick up my guitar